Welcome back, friends. Last session I took you towards an understanding of a stage wherein organizations work upon the revival of their products, and I shared few examples with you. There can be number of examples on this, and in consumer products you would find lot many examples wherein a product has reached to a verge of decline, or has already declined, and then the organization lifted it up. There can be several examples in candies, uh, in salt, one or two cases you may find that, in sugar you may find that, and then I may be wrong here and there, but if you will observe, you would you just have to go to the past sales of all these products and the time period associated with that, and then you would realize that how organizations they have picked up the situation. Now, we were talking about saddle when I left you in the last session, and saddle is wherein there is a dip between growth and growth, and this picture in front of you which I shared with you last time, so it shows a saddle, and we are talking of saddle effect. So, you see again this figure or this picture talks about saddles observed in sales of personal computers and microwave ovens during a particular period of time by the authors, and I have already given you the reference of the research paper which I have referred for this kind of a discussion. Now, you see there are some rival theories of the saddle, wherein saddle, those rival theories, or as the authors mention that there are three elements from that side, that saddle may occur due to chasms and in adopter segments, business cycles, technological cycles. I would not be taking you in much a deeper detail of every element. You may refer to that paper, but definitely moving ahead. You see, Rogers in 1995 classifies product adapters into 5 distinct groups: innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. And this figure talks about the point of discussion which we are pursuing in terms of chasms in adopter segments, because this description says that saddle comes because of this. So, the technology / product diffusion process can be fueled by simply targeting the innovators and the early majority, thereby triggering an unbroken word of mouth communication process across other adopter segments. The biggest crack or a chasm separates the early adopters from the early majority because they have different characteristics and needs. Thus, the former do not form a good word of mouth reference point for the latter. And next is product offerings appealing to technology enthusiasts need not appeal to the mainstream market. Thus, mainstream customers discount adoptions by technology enthusiasts and care only about adoptions by other mainstream customers. The weak communication between the early and the main markets may lead these segments to adopt products at substantially different rates, thus creating a saddle. So, this is one of the description on how saddle may come. Before I go to what authors found out, let us see another description, and I would not be taking you into specific technology based description, but that it gets infused here in this one and the earlier description I have just given you. So, here business cycles based kind of description says that a saddle is likely to occur during periods of economic contractions, wherein shrinked income and depressed buying power is there. Then you see recession is at the heart, at the core, the recessionary phase is going on somehow. And then the other element is that consumers may lose trust during a contraction more quickly. Another element is firms engaged in cyclical marketing strategies cutting on advertising expenditures and so on. And lastly, this is related to that, it may trigger a negative cascade in new product sales. The recession, you see, recession is at the heart of. So, recession may generate a cascading effect on product sales. And then the graphical representation talks about a picture which is as good as a saddle. So, this is also one of the explanations for that. Now, key findings on effect of saddle as far as the research done in this paper goes are related to that the saddle is pervasive across countries. The onset of saddle occurs in 148 of 156 product country combinations which they studied and analyzed. The average time from takeoff to start of the saddle is 9 years and average depth of the saddle is 29%. The duration of saddle is 6.6 years for 36 information/entertainment products which they studied, and 8.5 years for the 84 kitchen and laundry products which they studied. There is a growing convergence in the year of saddle and the time from takeoff to saddle over time and across countries. For the start of saddle, results support the explanations of Chasms and technological cycles for information and entertainment products, and the explanations of business cycles and technological cycles for kitchen and laundry products. So, this is how authors they tried to project their findings. Again, continuing on that, they say that the results indicate that a recovery for information entertainment products is influenced by the year of commercialization and technological cycles, but not economic expansions. In contrast, a recovery for kitchen and laundry products may be influenced by economic expansion. So, there are two different set of conditions wherein recovery can be seen, or they may be seen as the reasons for recovery. Main implications of these findings are: saddle is a fairly pervasive phenomena that affects most new products. There is a dramatic convergence in some aspects of the saddle across countries, and technological innovations are an important driver of the recovery from a saddle. You see, the perspective which authors have shared with us is related to that there is a stage wherein products have been growing well and then suddenly the sales start dipping. There are several explanations to that, but phenomena is observed across several countries and several category of products. And because this is a primary study during a period of time, so results are weighed across several parameters and are pervasive and true. There can be further studies which can further think in terms of going ahead with longitudinal perspective associated with several other categories of products and several other combinations of parameters which can be checked upon and so on, but the results are indicative of a stage. Now, you see, let us look at it with a positive perspective, that if intelligent authors through primary study have observed such kind of a thing, we as marketing students and future marketers must take clues from that. I talked about some of the elements of that, for example, how should we think in terms of advertising or retailer confidence if we are taking clues from this kind of a research. There can be an elaborate kind of a thought process around our conclusion that saddle may come, wherein we can get prepared in terms of several elements. We can enhance our liquidity in terms of product revenue goes, so that we can offset the dip in the sales with additional kind of support to the product through whichever means we may. we can bring in some innovation in the product at that particular time, because the paper talks about technological innovation and support of innovation to as far as reviving of product goes. Why shouldn't we be focusing or preempting this? That is the main aspect which we are catering to at this moment. So, I will leave you with this thought, but now onwards I would be suggestive of the fact that if somehow you think in terms of developing a product life cycle graph, then you should be focusing upon drawing it slightly compositive, in slightly a composite manner, wherein you can think in terms of accommodating these two elements which we have discussed, apart from introduction, growth, maturity and decline. So, what you can think in terms of, you can think in terms of putting up introduction perspective here, then you can think in terms of carrying forward with, let us say, growth element here, and then you can think in terms of talking about a saddle phase here, and then you can think in terms of going for growth again here, and then you see this is where you can accommodate a phase wherein saddle, growth, introduction, kind of somewhat like this, and then you can think in terms of talking of maturity, then somewhat decline, and then rejuvenation as such. So, you can always accommodate these elements in your thought process as a marketing researcher, marketing scholar, future marketer and so on. And when now onwards you start plotting about the products you have in mind, or you whatever changes you are observing in terms of the sales and the graph of the products around you, then you may think of this composite picture to use as the basis for putting up products on different stages. Because during our discussion in strategy part, especially product strategy part, and remember we are talking of product management. So, product strategy, product related strategies are a very integral part of product management. So, when we will be talking about that part, I would specifically be urging, putting this in front of you, that you should start acknowledging the stages where the products lie, because that only would direct the strategy associated with the product. Now, as I suggested that I would be giving you a brief insight, again based on a very good paper which I have referred to earlier as well, written by Moon, that says break free from the product life cycle, published in Harvard Business Review in May 2005. And this paper talks about few important elements which I have enumerated for you here. It says that the concept of PLC had been, and it still is in many cases, at the center of most firms' marketing and positioning strategies, helping them to manage the methodical progress of their offerings along a bell-shaped curve from introduction and growth to maturity and decline. And from my side, now start saying that introduction, growth, saddle, growth, maturity, decline, rejuvenation. So, you may talk like that. Then the paper further says that though the concept has its advantages, it has given marketers a tunnel vision. Probably the author has observed that how they see only one trajectory and inexorable advance along the curve. This tunnel vision leads to competitive reflex to augment product as they mature. However, the augmented product becomes the expected product and companies start losing their competitive edge. And we have talked about this earlier as well, how customer starts raising his or her expectations. Now, for example, as the paper says, now even the generic toothpaste comes with the promise of whiter teeth and removes plaque. So, this is an example of how expectations get raised. So, just look at this distorted figure which I made for you, but this is how you should be thinking in terms of how to pursue life cycle. Now, next part I would be taking you towards understanding a relationship of product with marketing mix elements. Very broader discussion on this point, because I would be specifically focusing on the strategy part later on, but here it is very pertinent for us to imagine a concentric relationship between these all elements while putting product at the center, because you see here we are talking of product and brand management, and at many a times we are compelled to put other elements at center, but our effort would be focusing upon product as the core reason for driving other three elements. And you see, but before that I am sure that you would remember the definition of product, wherein we talked about product being physical goods, services, experiences, events, person, places, properties, organization, information, ideas and so on. Just keep that in mind, and you definitely would be remembering all the terms and concepts which we discussed, attributes and classification of products and concepts related to products and several terms and terminology related to products. Now, recalling that, focus on this. Just look at that, you see marketing mix, target and positioning is at the core. All the 4 P's, that is offerings, target, the customer you have in mind, and the positioning of the product which you are doing in the minds of the customer is at the core. Product is the basic reason for that, because that is what you are projecting in front of the customer. Now, how that product has a two-way or multi-way relationship between other elements actually. So, product for example has a particular kind of a positioning in the target's mind. The related pricing would be there, and it would demand an appropriately synchronous promotion through specific modes of communication which would be required to reach to the customer for sending a very specific message that customer needs. And the place, that is that retail outlets or the place you would be actually meeting the customer with your product has to be in consonance with, as far as the whole scenario goes. Somewhere you say that place would come first or promotion would come later and so on, but again this is how it would go. For example, you have a very specific automotive, let us say Mercedes Benz. Now, it has a particular kind of a positioning in the minds of this customer, which is a specific target for this product, and we may talk of different models here, but I am talking of different automotive models of this brand. Now, we very well understand that looking at the product, then its target market and positioning, we cannot get away from a specific pricing, and then in consonance of the price it cannot be taken to all the cities and all the places available. You see, it has to be there at larger places wherein such kind of a customer actually would buy that, and for obvious reasons the promotion has to be in consonance with everything. There can be a high priced product, but with a universal usage and universal acceptability. So, that can be thought of with a different kind of a perspective. There can be a not so high priced product, a common consumer good, which is liked by people with high buying power or not so much high buying power and so on. For example, Parle G. I have seen people with very high buying power also liking that product. So that has to be taken to the doorsteps of almost everyone. And that is precisely what I am saying. Everything has to be in consonance with each other. I would be talking about the specific elements later on as well. You see, that is what I want to say here, is that product is the basic element of marketing mix, because all other elements are required only when there is product. Obviously, all the marketing mix elements have to reinforce each other to enhance the experience of the customer. The elements of the marketing mix are tangled and sensitively related to each other. When a change is proposed to be made in one of the elements, it has to be checked if the changed element still fits with the with and reinforces the other element or elements, or has it started contradicting other elements. That means it is not fitting so much, I should not say contradict, making the marketing mix less effective in serving the customers. So here the objective is to you see why we are trying to understand the coherence in the relationship or dependability of all the elements of marketing mix on each other, especially while putting product at center, is because we want the effectiveness of marketing mix. That is the major objective of a product manager, and we would realize the intensity of this fact when we would be talking of brand management. Managers' decisions on marketing mix are based on various dimensions of each mix elements. And you see, just to recall that these are marketing mix elements, wherein under product you have quality, features, variants, services / support, image, positioning, substitutes and so on till design. Then you have price, and there are elements of price. Then you have promotion with the elements, and place with its own elements. Now just briefly, I would not, this discussion can take so much of time if I start correlating every element from product with almost all the elements which are related to be brought in picture when we are talking of one aspect of a product. But just to give you an example, for example, we talk about increasing the features in a product. Now as soon as we think in terms of enhancing the features and the capability of a product, let us say an automotive, let us say an apparel, or any other example, or even a newspaper for example. If you are enhancing the features, that may require cost, and you see under price, cost element would get raised. As soon as the cost element would get raised, to offset that we have to raise the promotion levels. Should we be focusing on advertising? Should we be focusing upon direct marketing or sales, or sales force based kind of a promotion? And if we have chosen one or two or in combination, then where? So this is precisely what I am talking of, you see, and that may enable us or help us in recalling the fact that if we are moving from a basic product to a potential product, that is precisely what we are doing. We are recalibrating the combination of all the 4 P's in consonance with each other, so as to bring in the effectiveness actually. So for example, we are enhancing the warranties. So product strength has to be enhanced, and then some production changes have to be brought in, and that may also increase the cost. For example, we are bringing in design changes, then definitely to emphasize upon that those design changes, promotion has to be done further, and definitely again it contributes to the cost, and so on. You see, there are triggering effects which have to be offset or equated with the equal intensity from the other elements of other P's. That is precisely the message here. For example, decathlon. You see, and I will give you a composite structure while mentioning this example. Decathlon's product portfolio includes all the sports equipment, more popular or less popular, their accessories, clothing, footwear and everything required. The wide collection is spread over various categories of sports, namely football, basketball, baseball, cricket, badminton, archery, billiard, darts, field hockey, roller skates, and so on. Just visit the store. And I am not one of the representatives, I am just an academician using this example. So now, in short, each and everything of a requirement is present for both men and women. It is a wonderful store. Now, Decathlon keeps its prices 20% lower, or lower should I say, than its competitors without compromising on quality. The pricing is low because of the optimization of internal processes in design and logistics. Decathlon has an immensely distributed network with over 800 stores all over the world because it has attached customers of almost every sport towards its attractive product portfolio that is related to distribution. And Decathlon also has products of all kinds from its own brands which it heavily promotes. Decathlon has a very high product quality relation because of its affordability factor with its quality as its differentiator. The customers in-store experience, where people spend their time in knowing more about a particular sport, is also spread by the word of mouth, the most delicate form of promotion, or one of the most delicate and desired form of promotion. Then there are several other examples. A newspaper, a Hindi or English for example, price of a copy and price of space. There are two prices a customer pays. So, reader pays the price of a copy and the advertiser pays for the price of the space, but those are related to each other. The higher the readership, the larger is the number of advertisers who can get associated, and it cuts both ways. You can reduce the price for the advertiser, you can raise the price for the advertiser because you can charge premium on your high readership as well, which most of the cases newspapers do. Then there are specific elements of target customers related to a particular newspaper. For example, it is a Hindi newspaper, so definitely Hindi readership is associated. It is an English newspaper, so English readership is associated with that. And then it depends upon how many people are reading one copy of that newspaper. That is where readership perspective comes in. How do you promote a newspaper for advertisers as well as readers? And then how have you positioned that? And if you have positioned that, where do you want them to read? You want them to digitally read the newspaper, or you want them physically read the newspaper? And same can be in terms of several tourist destinations. You see, you have several kinds of positionings associated with different kinds of tourist destinations. Bangkok, for example, is specific to their positioning in terms of tourist attractions. Singapore is very specific to as far as the tourist attraction goes, and when you have specified in terms of your positioning, you would have differentiated the target as well, although lots of overlap would definitely be there, but then pricing differences, promotion differences and some other differences would definitely be evident. And you see, I am talking of tourist destinations which are not so easily differentiable in terms of kind of attraction and experience. There is lots of difference between the places obviously, but again the point is tourists may like that place also and that place also, both of the places. So, still you have a different perspective working in terms of a fruitful and meaningful combination of all the 4 P's together. I will leave you with this thought of imagining almost everything we have discussed till now, especially positioning, product life cycle and all the stages or intermediary stages, or should I say stages and the supporting arguments, along with an intense relationship between all the 4 P's. So, just focus upon this as a composite picture now onwards, because after this we would be going more intense in terms of thinking about analysis and strategy. I will come back to you Till then, goodbye.